Personal transformation through self-love. Hi, friends. Guess what we're going to talk about today? One of the hardest things for gifted people, and that is self-love. So we're going to bridge the gap with my good friend Paul Hudon of our brain to our heart and our spirit. Because see, we're all outliers in an interesting kind of way. So we're going to talk about how that works and how we can transform our lives in a meaningful way. So get your coffee or your tea or your notebook and get ready for really powerful and inspiring conversation. So Paul, thank you so much for joining us today on Someone Gets Me.
Thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to this conversation.
We're going to have fun today. So what I'd like to know is, we're all outliers, those of us who live this kind of gifted, intense life. And how are you an outlier in your life? Because there's a lot of examples that I've thought about. I've read your blogs, I've listened to you, I kind of know a little bit, but I also don't know the rest. I don't know the whole story, obviously. So when you hear the word outlier and how are you different than others, what would you say?
Um, I was that rare individual in my neighborhood that started wearing glasses when I was 5, which meant that I wasn't going to play on the football team. I wasn't going to play catch or baseball with everybody else, and that I had to go out there and sort of create my own world, my own reality. And so I spent a tremendous amount of time alone. Um, and I became very comfortable with that. And so I didn't have the average uh, young boy life experience as most kids do. I mean, I climbed trees and all that, but I usually always did it myself. And I crashed my bike, but I usually always did that by myself, because nobody wanted to be responsible for the kid with glasses.
Oh, so how did that affect you emotionally?
It was tough. Um, yeah, it was tough, and because a lot of times, like when you don't get picked to play on the baseball team or something like that, you're hurt by it emotionally. Uh, but I just knew that um, I would just find comfort in just hanging out by myself. And I got to the point where I would just stop going. I wouldn't go to the baseball diamond at the end of the day. I would rather ride my bike or go walk through the woods or something like that. So you just, you start creating your own path to avoid those kinds of situations.
Okay, so fast forward, how did that play out like in high school and beyond for you?
Uh, well, in high school, I ran track because, well, you know, all you have to do is just run until you cross the finish line. You don't have to catch a ball or anything like that. So that was great. Um, but the thing is, I played music in junior high and in high school. And so I was in the band and I was in the track team. And so there were other ways to get friends, whether you were just, playing, you didn't have to, I didn't have to play catch to have friends. I could have friends in the band. I could have friends in the track team and things like that. Um, but the thing is that I did start rock climbing at the age of 13. Uh, and there was a lot of, and I started with my brother, and there was a lot of times where it was just he and I on the rock, and we would learn to trust ourselves uh, and know that the anchors were secure and we were climbing and we were all secure. And because my brother took a lesson and he taught me, and my mom was fine with it. And we had a cliff next to our house. And so I started to gain self-confidence from that, which was really big at that age. So
That's really fascinating. That's and it's true. You learn how to trust yourself, and you're reminding me of a phrase we used to say in seminary all the time when I was in seminary, and that is, the higher you go, the stronger the wind, but remember the mountain sustains you.
yeah,
What you're saying about rock climbing and making sure everything is secure, the cliff sustains you. And the human intuition or instinct is to pull away, but really we want to lean in.
exactly. That's exactly it. That's a great word for it. You want to lean in, and um and when things got tough, we would go rock climbing, because it was an outlet. It was like, well, I just had a rough day. Let's go rock climbing. And, and this was back in the 70s. This was in 72, 73, 74. So rock climbing was definitely an outlier sport at the time.
Mm.
I mean, people thought now it's really become popular, and you see it quite often. But back then, it was a fringe sport, and everybody thought you were a lunatic.
And back then there was not rock climbing places to go that have the plastic wedges to step on. It was like real rocks and real cliff and
Yeah.
real anchors. A whole different sport than what some people would think of today, other than maybe dance people are doing real cliffs, right? Like you went right from, oh, I think we'll learn rock climbing to cliffs.
Yes, yes, that's a real bee's nest in that crack, That's a real squirrel screaming at me.
Right, right. And it's not air conditioned, it's not all those things.
No, no.
And that's really fun. So what instrument did you play?
Oh, I played trombone.
Oh, fun.
So,
I
yeah,
have a friend of mine who plays trumpet. I love horns.
yeah. I love playing music. It was great fun.
And so how did playing music serve you? And
Um, Again, it's one of those things that gave me self-confidence, because at that age, you're learning new things, and you pick up this thing which it's totally foreign to you. Any musical instrument is totally foreign when you first pick it up.
Mhm.
And when you first try to make a sound, you just want to cry because you can't believe that at some point you're going to actually sound good or decent, or they're going to let you in the band.
Right.
And so it just comes with time. It's one of those things. It's a classic case as much of life as it that it's that journey of a single step. It's like, all right, if I want to do this, I have to play this note. I have to play this note. I have to play this note over and over and over again for hours. Uh, it's like anything, though. Before I can be proficient at it, uh, and you gain confidence with that. You gain self confidence with that.
Oh, that's fun. So what drew you to band anyway and music anyway?
Um,
You remember?
yeah, it's my mom always had this motto, and she always encouraged us to try new things. And her motto was, well, what if it doesn't work out? She'd be like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You could just stop playing the trombone and play the drums or something. And so you go, well, if you think, what's the worst thing that can happen is I can go play another instrument, or I can, then you're going to give it a try. It's like, well, why not try? Because how do you know if you don't try?
Right. If you don't put the effort out. So did you ever play in a marching band?
I did, and yes, our high school band marched on a football field, and then we marched in parades. And of course, as the trombone players, you're out there in the front because you don't want to poke anybody in the back with your slide. So yes, I did all that, and I enjoyed it very much. I really did enjoy it.
So I find that whole thing fascinating because I love watching marching bands, but all I can think about is it's clearly not my skill set to figure out how my feet are going to march and do the thing and follow the thing and play the instrument. And that's like far too many things for my ADHD brain. It would get just totally distracted. So how were you able to stay focused and grounded and like actually like do it successfully? Like how does that work?
Well, the thing is, by the time we started marching, we had the music pretty much memorized.
Okay.
We could memorize the music, and it was all pretty simple music, but we could memorize the music so we could think about where we were going and what we had to do. And if we were marching on a football field, and we had to pay attention to what yard line we would stop at, or what yard line we would pivot, and things like that. So yeah, there was this total awareness where you were looking around everywhere but your music, because you had it memorized, to sort of see what cues were there for you, and what cues, where you should stop, where you should pivot, and that kind of thing.
So did you ever go the wrong direction?
Lucky for me, I did not, but other people in the band had. So,
That
uh,
that would be me. I would be those other people. Whatever it would be. I could just I'm imagining it going, oh no. That oh no. I
well,
am afraid
you're
that
kind of terrified. it's funny because you're terrified. You don't want to be that person.
Hmm.
You don't want to be that person that, oh, there you go. Yeah. So
Random person going off that way when you're supposed to go in this way.
one man marching band going that way.
That would be me.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
that's hysterical. So you're gaining confidence, and you did all these cool things from rock climbing to music, and everything, and that's really cool. So how did these gifts and this self confidence that you gained graduate into your professional life? What kinds of work have you done? How did you take these early lessons and these early experiences as being an outlier and use them for your own personal success?
Um, I was a carpenter for 40 years.
Neat.
Uh, and our high school, this was back in the day when high schools had industrial arts programs, where they had printing and drafting and automotive and wood shop. And I needed an elective. I needed another class. And one of the, I'm going to call it a disadvantage with a tongue in cheek, is that one of the disadvantages of being in my family was that it was okay to be creative. Uh, and so I my senior year in high school, I spent more time in woodshop than all my other subjects combined because I loved it so much. And when I graduated from high school, I knew I wanted to work with wood for the rest of my life. And I went into the trades and became a carpenter at that point.
So what's your favorite wood to work with?
Boy, it's hard to tell. They all have such great character. Uh, yeah, they all have such very different character. Some have great color and some have great texture. It would really be hard to narrow my favorite wood.
Oh, that's cool. I
So,
love wood, and I love different wood, and it's just beautiful. There's something gorgeous about it. That's really impressive. So, I do a lot of quilting, and
mhm,
um, it requires creativity and precise measurements all at the same time. And I
mhm,
imagine carpentry's similar in that sense. Yeah, there's precision involved if you're going to be good at it.
mhm.
And creativity, because like you said, there's different kinds of wood, and they respond differently, and they look differently, and they go together differently, and there's all this beauty and variance. So, how did bringing the precision and the creativity together in your long, successful career, how did that help you in your life? Like for me, it helps me center and ground myself.
Yes, that's a great point. I remember many stressful days at work where I would come home from work and I wouldn't even go into the house. I would go right into my cabinet shop and work for a little while before I walked into the house. It gave me a chance to decompress for a little while. Um, and again, the thing about working with wood, or just being in a cabinet shop or any kind of creative position, is we really don't know it at the time, but we really are following our intuition. Uh, because a lot of times when we're building things, like for me, I would say, well, does this look better or does that look better? And then I'd hear, that looks better. Okay, let's go with that. Or you would start to trust your intuition more and more when you're building stuff. And I think we almost take that for granted, that skill of putting pieces together and knowing, wow, that's right, or putting pieces together and looking at it and thinking, whoa, that's not right. Uh, I think we overlook that ability, that feeling we get, and as a carpenter, that just developed more and more and more throughout the course of my life.
Oh, that's really great. So was there ever a time that you ignored that voice and you wish you didn't?
Yes, but not in my. Yes, that's a funny question. More than just once, and not only in my carpentry career.
Mm. Like what? Like give us a good story about that where you
Well,
tapped into
um,
it, you ignored it, and you go, "Oh no, I shouldn't have done that."
um, well, because I hiked a lot as a kid, because I spent a lot of time in the woods by myself, I had that intuitive feeling where if I felt uncomfortable, I would just leave. It's like, all right, well, it's time to go. I don't feel all that good. I got it. It's not right for me to be here. and then there there were times, one in particular, I was on a going to ride off-road motorcycles with some friends in Moab, and I had the intuitive feeling. I knew what it meant. I knew it wasn't my day, and I knew that I should just stay home or stay in Moab and maybe read my book and ride around Moab and just take it easy. But we spent money on hotel rooms and we spent money on a guide, and I thought, well, I'm going to go anyway. And so I totally ignored my intuitive feeling. And the reason I ignored it because I wanted to be liked by my friends. I didn't want to be the guy that bailed out. So I said, okay, I'm going to go. And I knew it was a wrong decision. And about 18 miles into it, I stuffed my motorcycle into a big crack and broke my arm. And I had to ride out on the back of somebody's bike, and 3 hours of surgery, 2 nights in the hospital later. I realized I didn't love myself enough to follow my own intuition.
Mm.
And yeah. But the thing is, this will crack you up. That wasn't the last time.
Stop. We have to do it more than once. So what happened next? What was the next time?
Well, the thing is, see, so then they have your days, and I want to give intuition its due. We have our days where you have the funny gut feeling, you hop on your motorcycle, you get to the top of the driveway and you think, yeah, I think I'm just going to do something else today. And you turn around and you park the motorcycle, or you park whatever it is you're going to do. And then I had a wonderful day. So I could clearly see the benefits of following my intuition. But I really needed to learn that lesson one more time. And and this sort of leads up to my writing. And so I was working. I know you'd think I would have learned.
Right. Because wrecking your motorcycle and surgery and all, that's a pretty big consequence.
It is a pretty good and I have a scar in my arm that reminds me every day. But it still gets better. I guess. And so it was toward the end of my carpentry career. I was working for a client. With the moment I met him, he made me uncomfortable. And everything I was doing for him just set off the bells and whistles of my intuition. And I knew that I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. But, I'm a guy. I needed the money. And, there are all kinds of excuses. I need to do this. It's great work. I might not agree with him, but I need the money. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and I was supposed to install everything the next day. And I was working in my shop, and I picked up a piece of wood, and I thought I should sand this with my little palm sander. And I thought, no, I could just run it over this machine. And so I ran it over the machine and nipped 3/8 of an inch off my index finger. And I knew it the moment it happened. I knew it. I thought, there it is, the intuitive feeling. Because by then the uncomfortable gut feeling was gone, because now the lesson was learned. And I had to look at it. I instantly picked up a paper towel. I had to look at it. And I said, okay, here we go. I opened up the paper towel and I thought, we're going to the emergency room. And as my wife was driving to the emergency room, I told myself that I would never, ever doubt my intuition again. And I would spend the rest of my life trusting my intuition. And I made that commitment to myself. And at that very moment, my life changed.
Yep.
So
how did your life change?
I realized that I could actually love myself enough to follow my own intuition, and that it didn't matter what anybody else thought of me, or how I was perceived by the outside world. If something didn't make me feel 100%, I wouldn't do it. I asked my intuition if I should take the back way to town or the highway to town. I asked my intuition if I should go for a bike ride or a run. I asked my intuition if I should soak in a hot tub or take a shower. I asked my intuition everything all the time. And things just work out great. But I've learned to trust my intuition enough to because to know that the answer is right. The answer is right all the time.
Right.
And
So
I
you've
have
learned how to listen to it over time and discern the message.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, I hear a lot about intuition and intuitive ability, and of course, intuition is the highest form of intelligence, and I live on my intuition as well. But I always I'm wondering if you've ever had any kind of outright, I guess I would say, judgment by others because of being a man with intuition. Like, women can be intuitive and weird and stuff like that, but there's very few men who say out loud in the world that they own their intuition and live by their intuition, like you just said it. So, have
Yeah,
you had any challenges in your life because you've made this stand?
yeah. I I was on a hike. We used to live in Colorado, and I was on a hike with these two other guys, and it was a beautiful, crystal clear day. The hike was actually my idea, um, and we started getting into the hike, and I continued hiking, and I just developed that gut feeling. I was like, yeah, this is just not for me. And I said, hey, stop. And they said, what? And I said, today's not my day. I'm just going to turn around. And they go, well, yeah, but how are you going to get home? I said, I'll just hitchhike. I don't really care. And it's funny. It did change my relationship with those two guys forever after that. Um, but on the other hand, I remember being in my sea kayak north of San Francisco out in the ocean with a friend of mine paddling. And I said to him, we were out paddling, and I said, boy, I feel really uncomfortable. And he goes, oh, and before I could even say anything, he was turning around. We were heading back to the beach. I didn't have to say anything. And so those are the people that you want to associate with. Those are the people that if your intuition tells you this isn't right, we're just going to turn around. We're not going to question it.
Right.
And
I
those
have
are the
people
people
in
you
my
want.
Yeah, I have people in my life like that. If I'm saying it, they're just doing it. I'm like, oh, okay. Because over
Yeah.
time, people are aware that what my gut is saying is accurate even when we can't see it.
Right, right. And I'm fortunate because my wife is very intuitive and I'm intuitive. And so we're the same way with each other. If she says, wow, this doesn't feel right, I don't question her. I don't make her feel bad. I'm like, okay, if this doesn't feel right, we're out of here. We're going to do something else. Uh, and, and it's a great way to live. Um, because I know I'm always going to be safe and comfortable, and I'm making the right decisions. Um, but it's challenging for other people in the world to live that way because they haven't tapped into that intuition.
So if somebody's listening to us right now who knows they're intuitive or kind of thinks they might be, they're kind of afraid to admit it out loud, and they're wondering like how to step into that or what to do or what are some steps, what would you tell them?
Well, the interesting thing about intuition is that we usually find out if we've made the right choice after. And so, like, I realized in the emergency room that I made the wrong choice. Uh, that was the last time in the emergency room, by the way. Uh, and so we can ask ourselves, we say, okay, is this the right thing to do? And see how it unfolds and see if let's say if I ask myself, wow, should I go to town today or tomorrow? And if I go today, if my intuition says go tomorrow, but I go today, how does it unfold? What happens to me along the way? How do I interact with the people, say in Walmart or something like that? So a lot of it is self-reflecting after you made the choice, and that's where you'll see the lesson. Um, and but it takes practice to learn to trust it because our ego wants to get in the way. My ego always wants to ride my motorcycle, always.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, but my intuition doesn't always want me to ride my motorcycle.
Right. Well, I teach my people to verify and confirm, to
Yeah.
to check what's going on, how the information is coming in, and pay attention to how we feel
Yep.
energetically, because it for all of us it speaks differently, but yet it speaks. So the key
Hmm.
is to dial in and actually feel and be able to discern, is that a feeling of move forward, or is that a feeling of wait, or is that a feeling of back up or go right or go left? Like, what is that feeling, and how do they connect? And so I find that really useful to pay attention. Do you keep a journal?
I do. I do. I try to write in a journal every day.
Yeah, that always helps. So what do you do for your own self-care? How do you continue to take care of yourself and keep transforming and keep growing? What do you do personally?
Um, like I said, I write in a journal, and then writing centers me. Yeah, I write a blog in the weekly, and that actually centers me, which surprises a lot of people. And I like to read, so it's not uncommon for me to just sit and read uh, in an afternoon or something like that.
Mhm.
Um,
What kinds of things do you like to read?
right now, I'm reading a lot of. I seem to be reading more nonfiction than anything else. I'm reading your book, Someone Gets Me.
Mhm.
Um, I just read a book titled Never Split the Difference on negotiating. I'm reading a book on listening. So a lot of my books are all self improvement based. Because I'm always trying to live the best, be the best person I can be, live the best life I can be.
Mhm.
And so I'm always, I love to learn. Um, and then right now, physically, I'm challenging myself to learn to swim. Um, you know, I swam as a child, but now the thought of going to the pool and swimming 1,000 yards, those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's
So
great. I love swimming. Swimming to me is very healing. Not only
yes,
but the rhythm of it.
yep, yep.
Yeah, that's really fun. So, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, um, swim, ride my bike. I have a great relationship with my wife, so I enjoy hanging out with her. I enjoy encouraging her to see how far she can go in life. Um, it's interesting. Um, I think a lot of my life, most of my life, brings me joy anyway. So the thought of fun, it's like, well, getting up and walking with the dog, fun. And today I went for a run, and that was fun, and seeing how fast I could run and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's really cool. So, how is it being married to another intuitive person? Like, where both of you are really intuitive. How is that?
But it's great because uh, she can tap into her own intuition. And she's a florist and grew flowers for a long time, and is very, again, very creative. And sometimes I think she's, well, of course, she's a woman, so she just might be more in tune with her intuition than I am, because I have a lot of male history to overcome. Um, and so her intuition serves her really well. If something doesn't feel right, she won't do it. And we talk about why, which is great. We spend a tremendous amount of time talking with each other.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think that the communication and actually talking and sharing about things is so valuable in all relationships, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
tell us a little bit about how you've taken all this transformation and intuition and these experiences. I'm still kind of stuck on the image of the motorcycle accident. How did you take all of these lessons and move them forward? I know that you've written a book or two, right? Or something.
I've
And
written three
you've done all
books.
this- and you've done all these really neat things. So how have you taken these experiences and created yet another really cool iteration of your calling? How did you do that?
Um, so my first two books are actually based on conversations with my intuition. They're both written in question and answer form because I genuinely wanted to know the answers to the question I was asking. Questions, and I want to be the best person I can be, the best man I can be, the best husband I can be, uh, and uh, and so I'm a really curious person. So I'm always asking questions. And so I thought that if I'm asking these questions, and then other people want to will need these answers too.
Mhm.
And so that's where I thought sharing them would be great. Uh, I never ever thought I would be an author. Although I'm glad I am. I enjoy it very much um, because I was the kid with glasses that struggled with spelling and reading. And so uh, for me, knowing the thing about being an author, and you know this too, is like you can write this great blog post or this great book and you put it out there and you have no idea if anybody's going to read it. And that's part of the frightening part of being an author. But then every once in a while, you'll get an email that says, wow, this really struck me. This really resonated with me today. And for me, I go, okay, cool. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this because somebody out there, just like you, somebody out there gets me. And so we keep doing it. We keep doing it. We keep doing it. And I don't think anybody becomes an author to stand on top of the world with their hands above their head and says, look at me. I think we become authors, especially the types of writing that you and I do, because we want to help other people live to the fullness of who they are. And it's it's more like a selfless service. It's like I write because I need it, but I write because I want other people to live to the fullness of who they are. And so,
That's really beautiful, and I think that's true for people like us, and like, I'm going, "Yeah, uh-huh, yep, that's how it works. Yep, yeah, uh-huh." I love
yeah,
it. So, if you're loving everything that Paul is saying like I am, you can check the show notes out for all the links. You can get to his website, order his books, read his blog, which I've done, and they're very well written, and the website's beautiful and clean and easy to read. So, one of the things that I appreciate about your website especially is it's easy to read. So many people clutter things up or use fonts that are hard for my gifted brain, and your website did not do that to my brain. And so for all of you who have these overexcitabilities and are twice exceptional, you can actually read Paul's website without an overload. It's really beautiful.
thank you.
Because there are times where I'm like, really, or people put like weird contrast things together, and my overexcitability struggle with that. So that's not the case with your website. I think it's right on. So
Thank you.
um, if you want to reach out to Paul or you want to follow him or get his books, you can even get autographed copies if you want to. Go to his website, follow him on social media, and learn more because there's always more. All these interviews are like really amazing, and I'm getting these great conversations. I'm getting goosebumps now. And there's always more. So as we all evolve in unity, diversity, and complexity, always remember that any podcast you listen to is a snippet in time. It is not the end. So make sure that as you're inspired, you check in and follow the different people so that you can continue to be inspired. And so I have another couple questions for you, and then we
Okay.
will end the show. But these are my favorite questions. And the first one is, what is the most memorable food you've ever eaten?
um, that's interesting. I'm going to say a number of years ago, I spent 21 days crisscrossing the Arctic Circle in northern Alaska with one other person. And we were camped on this island, and three Eskimo families uh, came up on their motorboats. They were going from one town to another town, and this little island was their midway point. And they didn't know we were there, and we didn't know they were going to show up, and we hadn't seen anybody in 5 days. And these Eskimos pulled up in their motorboats, and they were going to have lunch. And these were traditional Eskimo families, and they served us muktuk, which is the outer layer of blubber and skin of the beluga whale, and along with some reindeer sausage and caribou sausage. And so it was a traditional sort of Eskimo lunch on this little island in the middle of nowhere. So I would have to say it would be muktuk above the Arctic Circle with an Eskimo family.
Oh, what a memory. Did you like it?
Well, it was more the whole experience,
Huh?
of being there with the Eskimo family and talking to these old Eskimo men and talking about their lives and seeing the dynamics of the family and things like that, and hearing their stories, um, and having an Eskimo uh, tell me that I was a crazy white man in a kayak was sort of the highlight of the whole trip.
Yes, I'm living my outlier self. Here we go.
Yes, I know. Continuing that.
Oh, okay. See, once we're born into it, there's no getting away from it.
I know, no kidding.
Right. So if you wanted to have a billboard that we were going to put up that would have your personal quote on it, the whole world would see, what would be on that billboard?
Love yourself enough to follow your intuition.
Oh, I love that. Love yourself enough to follow your intuition.
Yep.
That is beautiful. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for being on Someone Gets Me with me today and sharing really amazing stories. And I just love how you have woven intuition and confidence and competence all the way through your life. And now you're sharing it with the world in a meaningful way. And I can't thank you enough for the good work you're doing. So thank you for being here with us today too.
Well, thank you so much, Diane. It's been a real pleasure for me.
Thank you. So remember, everyone, put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. Remember to love yourself enough to trust your intuition. And remember our good friend Paul. And always, until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Diane saying, be well.